Can Zhen Huan, blessed with both beauty and talent, truly outshine all in the imperial harem and enjoy everlasting favor? Consort Jing urgently said, "Lady, the sun outside is scorching and the granite is hard. How can you let the concubine kneel on it?" From far behind, Ling Rong also pleaded, "Lady, please calm your anger. For the sake of the imperial heir the concubine is carrying, please spare her. If anything were to happen, the emperor and empress might blame you upon their return." Ling Rong's voice was damaged, making her plea sound even more pitiful and sorrowful. However, Lady Xihua became furious. If the palace rules are not strict, they must be enforced. It would be the same even if the emperor and empress were here. Consort K is the perfect example. Are you trying to use the emperor and empress to threaten me? Ling Rong, terrified and in tears, dared not speak further and kept kowtowing continuously. Lady Xihua glared at me. "Will you walk out on your own, or shall I have someone assist you?" Feeling intermittent slight pains in my lower abdomen, I frowned but proudly said, "There's no need to trouble yourself, lady." Zhou Ninghai smiled slightly, lowering his eyes towards me. "Please, concubine." I walked solemnly to the outside of Mixiu Palace and knelt down straight, saying, "I accept the punishment because the lady is a first-rank lady, only below the empress in status, and commands the affairs of the 6 palaces by the emperor and empress's order." Ignoring Consort Jing's frantic eye signals and indifferent to the surrounding sympathetic or schadenfreude gazes, I lifted my head slightly. It's not that I'm sincerely convinced by the lady's rebuke. Justice lies in the hearts of the people, not in punishment. Lady Xihua laughed in rage. "Very well, I will let you see whether justice is in my hands, Murong Sherlan, or in the so-called hearts of the people." She tossed a book in front of my knees. "Read it yourself until I'm satisfied." Ignoring caution and dignity, Eyebrow Pavilion knee walked to Lady Xihua, saying, "Concubine Huan is pregnant and really shouldn't." Lady Xihua raised her eyebrows, cutting her off. "It seems you've healed and forgotten the pain. Since you're pleading for her, kneel beside her and listen to the lecture together." I didn't want Eyebrow Pavilion to suffer on my account. She had only recently recovered, and how could she endure a long kneeling under the harsh sun? I glanced at her, signaling her not to speak further, and then softly said to Lady Xihua, "Shen Ronghua was not pleading on my behalf. Please do not direct your anger at her." Lady Xihua's heavily made-up face broke into a mocking smile. "And what if I choose to direct my anger at her? What could you possibly do?" Suddenly dropping her smile, she said to Eyebrow Pavilion, "Aren't you as close as sisters? You can kneel opposite concubine while holding the book, so she can read properly and learn some discipline." Knowing that further pleas would only result in more humiliation, Eyebrow Pavilion silently picked up the book and whispered quickly and softly in my ear, "I'll accompany you." I was overwhelmed with gratitude and moved beyond words. I nodded briskly, tilting my head slightly to force back the tears welling up in my eyes. As it was nearing noon, the sun's rays were blisteringly intense. Stepping out from the cool and pleasant Mixiu Palace, I was immediately enveloped in a wave of heat that seemed to penetrate every pore of my body. I then understood why Lady Xihua had not acted earlier but waited until this moment. The cool of the morning would have been too lenient in her eyes. The light, soft fabric of my dress clung to my legs, the heat from the tiles searing through to my core, making the area from my knees to my toes uncomfortably hot and hard. Lady Xihua sat comfortably at the entrance of the hall, surrounded by ice sculptures. Even feeling the heat herself, she had 4 maids fan her while ordering the eunuchs to move the seats of the noble ladies and princesses to the front of the veranda. Let them watch closely. See what good comes from not following palace rules and disrespecting me. The women of the palace cherished their skin, unwilling to expose even a small part of their snow-white, delicate skin to the harsh sun, as if it were a matter of life and death. Accustomed to luxury, how could they bear to sit in the sun and endure the exposure with me? Yet, who dared defy Lady Xihua's strict orders? They might end up kneeling beside me. Thus, everyone wore faces of misery and despair, angry but unable to speak out. I couldn't help but bitterly smile inwardly at Lady Xihua's machinations. Not satisfied with her current favor, she aimed to darken the complexion of those delicate beauties, ensuring she alone remained the pale beauty in Xianling's eyes upon his return. Gradually, everything quieted down, the sun glaring down on the granite courtyard. The tiles, originally glossy and reflective, like boards of solidified ink, now blindingly bright under the sun. Resigned to our fate, Eyebrow Pavilion and I knelt opposite each other in that pool of glaring light. She held the book up for me, making me read each word. The strong reflection and the book's worn state made it difficult to read each word. Consort Jing, unable to bear it, wanted to intercede once more, but Lady Xihua shot her a fierce glance. Kneeling for half an hour and reciting the women's admonitions won't kill anyone. If you keep talking, I'll have you kneel too. Consort Jing had no choice but to remain silent. After one round of reading, Lady Xihua was still not satisfied and coldly commanded, "Read it again." I had no choice but to start over, worrying for Eyebrow Pavilion's well-being and the safety of the child in my womb. I tried to read faster, but Lady Xihua wouldn't allow it. Whenever I slightly sped up, Eyebrow Pavilion would receive a harsh blow from the ruler, a tool originally used by teachers to discipline unruly students, but now turned into an instrument of punishment in Lady Xihua's palace. The sharp smack of the ruler on flesh was particularly crisp, leaving a deep red mark. Eyebrow Pavilion bore the pain silently, her sweat pouring down. I knew the wounds would sting even more once they were soaked with sweat. Lady Xihua dared not lay hands on me, but seeing Eyebrow Pavilion suffer in my stead filled me with an indescribable agony, worse than if I had been the one punished. All I could do was watch helplessly, slowly reading word by word, enduring the passage of time. I didn't know how much time had passed. My legs had gone numb, and sweat prickled down my face, sticking to my hair. My clothes on the back and around the sleeves became wet and then dried, leaving white salt stains. I read over and over. The humble and ignorant, receiving the residual favor of our forebears and relying on the teachings of our mothers and teachers. The grace of the saints is overwhelming, bestowing upon me a position I never dared to hope for. Men can fend for themselves and I no longer worry for them. But it pains me that our daughters, soon to be married, have not been gradually taught and have not learned the rights of women. I fear they will disgrace themselves in other households, bringing shame to our family. The first principle of humility. In ancient times, when a girl was born, she was placed under a bed and played with tiles and bricks, and a ritual was conducted. Placing her under the bed signified her lowliness and her role as a subject. The second principle concerns the relationship between husband and wife. The way of husband and wife complements yin and yang, connecting to the divine. It upholds the grand righteousness of heaven and earth, and the major principles of human relations. Was it the sound of cicadas or Ling Rong's continued kowtowing? My head was spinning, the noise buzzing in my ears. The third principle of respect and caution. Yin and yang are distinct, and men and women follow different paths. Yang values strength as virtue. Yin uses softness. Men are honored for their strength. Women are cherished for their gentleness. Perhaps the sun was too intense. The words seemed to blur, enlarging and shrinking, swirling like ants. The fourth principle of women's conduct. Women have four virtues. The virtue of a woman, her words, her appearance, and her work. My abdomen felt heavy, my mouth parched, my body both sore and limp, as if all my strength was evaporating with my sweat. Eyebrow Pavilion looked at me worriedly, and Consort Jing's anxious voice reminded, "It has been half an hour." The fifth principle of focused mind. In rights, a husband may remarry, but a wife may not remarry, hence the husband is likened to heaven. The sixth principle of compliance. Pleasing one husband is considered eternal completion. Displeasing him is seen as eternal cessation. The sound of ice tinkling in Lady Xihua's cup was like wind chimes tempting me. She held a piece of ice in her mouth and indifferently said, "No rush, read for another quarter of an hour. Should anything happen, how can we justify it? I fear even the lady herself could not bear the consequences." "Ah, Sister Huan's face has turned pale, my lady." Lady Xihua scoffed. "Is she putting on such an act for me to see? She seems perfectly fine to me." And the seventh, regarding uncles and aunts. A woman's satisfaction with her husband stems from the love of her uncles and aunts. Their love, in turn, comes from the praises of cousins. Humility is the handle of virtue, compliance the path of a wife. These two are sufficient for harmony. As the poem says, "No evil in the other, no faults in oneself." This is what it means. The pain, almost spasmodic, spread like a snake, as if something was being drained bit by bit from within me. With the sun so intense, why did I feel cold? as if the bright white light was as cold as snow. I wanted to lean on someone. Was that eyebrow pavilion calling me? Juana, what's wrong?
I'm sorry. Eyebrow pavilion.
It's not that I don't want to answer. I just don't have the strength. Why is there a man's robe near me? Xinling, have you returned? Xilang, please save me. No, that's not the imperial yellow, nor is it the emperor's attire. Struggling to look up, I saw the usual attire of a prince, the silk robe with the jade dragon clasp. It's him, Xianqing. I remember now, with the Empress Dowager ill, he stayed at the Yulu Pavilion above Taipan to be near her day and night, and since he was unmarried, he stayed away from the inner palace to avoid impropriety. Yet, to visit the Empress Dowager, one must pass by Lady Shihua's Mixiu Palace. His sudden appearance caused a flurry among the consorts, scattering like birds, each seeking refuge inside the palace. Prince Qing, are you arguing with Lady Shihua? Foolish, with so many women around, don't you know to avoid suspicion? You must be mad to intrude like this. Lady Shihua has the powerful backing of the Prince of Runan, and among all the brothers, he despises you the most. Why bother? I can't concern myself with this anymore. My abdomen hurts terribly, as if claws are stirring my insides, stripping away the warmth from my body, that warm fluid sensation flowing out. My vision is obscured by a white fog, my eyelashes veiling my sight in layers of blur. Xianqing, your expression is so angry and urgent. You're always so gentle. Eyebrow Pavilion, Lingrong, why do you look so frightened? Eyebrow Pavilion, you're crying. Don't be afraid. I'm just tired, just a little in pain. Xilang, you're back. Look, Xilang is holding me, his robe pressing against my face. He lifts me in his arms like that day among the falling apricot blossoms, carrying me down the long Yong alley, his strong hands taking me away from Mixiu Palace. Lady Shihua scoffs coldly, but why does she look so panicked? Is Xilang scolding her? Eyebrow Pavilion, you're crying, will you follow? I'm so weary, I wish to sleep. But Xilang, why does your face look so much like Xianqing today? I can't smile. Perhaps my eyes deceive me. Concubine, as I lose my last bit of consciousness, Xilang, I only hear you calling me, your voice so tender, urgent and restrained. Is that hot liquid on my cheek your tears? Is this the first time you've cried for me? Or is this just a delusion of my ignorance?
Follow us to avoid getting lost and enjoy endless exciting stories. For more content, please go to the Story Wall homepage to view more exciting novels.